Hi, everyone. As we're working through this crisis now, as our country, we're all coming to grips with what our new normal is looking like. And some companies, of course, are taking a massive hit. Some are thriving in this new environment that we're working within and living within. In this tech-enabled sector, one is actually thriving. Greg Nichols here to talk to us about this. So when we talk about, Greg, not every industry, not every company being impacted equally here, which particular sector is actually thriving?
Yeah, obviously, a lot of industries are just super hard hit, and a lot of workers are very hard hit as well. But that one industry that is coming through is online shopping. Online shopping, perhaps predictably, during all the stay-at-home orders, the quarantines, the social distancing, has seen just absolutely staggering growth. That's completely explainable, but the growth in this sector has kind of far outpaced even the wildest projections of some kind of emergency scenario. And that's what I got to look into this week.
So when we talk about the growth, Greg, expand on that, and how much growth we're talking about, and do we have actual numbers that illustrate the change?
Yeah. Some of it is anecdotal. Some of it is a little bit firmer than that. And consider kind of in the days leading up to COVID-19, a simpler era, if we can call it that. The online share of grocery sales, that is the portion of grocery sales that occurred only online and didn't encompass someone going to the grocery store to buy their own groceries, was about 5%. That was the market penetration. And that was decent. That actually had kind of sprouted up overnight in the last couple of years, and was really considered on pace to eat a lot more share than that. Optimists in the sector really predicted, with no absolute certainty, but kind of predicting that that share of grocery sales, that online share, could peak at 6% by the end of the year. That was like in our wildest dreams. That's what this is going to become. So what's happened since then? Again, some of this is anecdotal. So we know that Apptopia found they aggregated some of the findings from the major online grocery apps. So for Instacart, Walmart Grocery, and Shipt, they saw surges of 218%, 160%, and 124% respectively. And that's in downloads, comparing from February, right before all of this broke, to in the US at least, to mid-March. Instacart reported grocery orders were 10 times higher than usual, 20 times in places like California and New York, where there are, of course, some pretty hard-hit areas. Average daily traffic to Walmart's online grocery site reached 1.1 million between March 1st and March 20th, and that's a 55% increase on daily visitor numbers during the previous 2 months. So combined, and this is kind of the punchline here, or the bottom line rather, the surge in online grocery demand has led to penetration currently of 9%. Remember, that was 5% of the entire sector just a few weeks ago. Now it's 9% of all grocery shopping, and experts think it's going to reach about 12% by year's end. So in other words, 1 in 10 people now have been habituated and are accustomed to buying their groceries online, and that just was not the case even a few weeks ago.
So that's really incredible, Greg. And I guess the big question is, and this is the $1 million question for us when it comes to so many things about what will our new normal look like, or how things will change, or will we go right back to our old habits when this is over? So will the same apply here? Do we think that people will continue to do this, or go back to how we used to do things?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is the $1 million question for sure. So the staggering findings that I just shared, they're part of a new report by a company called Fabric, which is an on-demand fulfillment company that utilizes robots and what's called micro fulfillment, which are very kind of small fulfillment centers to streamline the logistics portion of the delivery. So among the findings in Fabric's report, 52% of US consumers have shopped for groceries online recently because of the pandemic, and 20% of those are first-time shoppers. So this may be the tip of the iceberg. As senior hours are starting to kind of give way to more stringent social distancing, which I think is happening as people really are now confronting the reality of the rate of infections and really the mortality rate associated with COVID-19. 70% of consumers said they're more likely to continue shopping online for groceries because of the pandemic. Now, this is pandemic related, and the question is about, are we going to go back to the old way? So those who have never ordered groceries before, 51% plan to do so in the near future because of COVID-19. So the actual cash spent on groceries because of all of this online has doubled as the share of sales online has spiked in the same way. It is certain there's going to be some rollback of online shares as we come out of the crisis, and some semblance of normalcy returns. But interestingly, much of that customer base really could be retained. So industry respondents to this Fabric report, who were people in the sector that Fabric reached out to, suggest that there's a lot of optimism when it comes to that specific question of customer retention. So Fabric's respondents reported that they expect to keep up over 50% of online shopping of the increase that we're seeing during the pandemic after the pandemic ends. So in other words, even as life returns to a new normal and Americans do kind of venture out of their homes again and kind of pick up some of their normal routines, we're going to see a lot of those people still shopping online, which is kind of a change we thought was going to happen over maybe 4 years. That was kind of the projection to get to this point. It's happened over 3 to 4 weeks, which is just staggering.
Wow, that's incredible. And what do you think, or what does it mean, Greg, for the grocery sector in general overall here? What are they thinking?
Yeah, no one is, and this is an important point, no one is predicting that brick and mortar stores, grocery stores specifically, are going to go anywhere anytime soon. And there's lots of reasons for that. There are logistical reasons having to do with just the massive complexities of keeping various temperature zones going and keeping food available to the entire population that kind of bode well for brick and mortar stores. It's also, there's just kind of, there are social reasons that grocery stores in particular seem to be more durable than other kinds of brick and mortar stores, like bookstores, for example. They haven't quite been cannibalized by e-commerce the same way that other brick and mortar stores have. But the landscape definitely is changing, and it's changing a lot faster than anybody would have predicted. And a significant chunk of the business is now moving online forever, it seems. So stores, they're definitely scrambling to catch up. The sudden surge is kind of being patched over and figured out in real time. There are some big players who are a bit better suited for this. They were out ahead with kind of ambitious online ordering programs. Walmart's one of those. Kroger, the Kroger chain, they had some great partnerships in place when it came to fulfilling online orders and a great ecosystem there. So they are already kind of jumping out front. But the race for retention and sustained growth, it's really going to happen over the next 5 years. We've seen the habituation of the customer base now happen very quickly. And it's going to be those players who can really manage to sustain those logistics, the kind of nuts and bolts of the automation, the delivery, the order fulfillment over the next 4 to 5 years that are going to kind of emerge from this either less scathed or really with an advantage. And others, I think, are going to struggle if they haven't begun to get those systems in place already. Certainly, they're going to fall behind. And if they don't act very quickly to shore up those fulfillment logistics, they're really going to be in dire straits because, again, we're seeing 12% potentially by the end of this year. And if we sustain even 10% of market share after things go back to normal, that is quite significant. That's billions and billions of dollars for one of the biggest industries in the US.
Wow, those are just the numbers are hard to comprehend, Greg, but it is amazing to see how when people are put in a position, how quickly they have to adapt. From the consumer end, people that have never even thought about ordering groceries online and how quickly they figure it out. And for the on the other end of it, though, the companies, the stores that are having to possibly scramble, some that weren't out in front of it earlier, to see how they're working through this as well. Certainly a case study on so many fronts when this is all over, to see how we move through this and what life will be like, how it will be different when all is over. So, well, I hope certainly you and your family staying safe there. And I know it's a big adjustment for everything. I guess, were you an online shopper before? Did you do your grocery shopping that way?
You know what? I love a trip to the store. It's one of those meditative things for me. So I actually do prefer to go in person. But yeah, just like you said, a lot of people who never thought they were going to shop online are now shopping online. It includes a lot of grandparents and people who would have sworn they never would have done that. And we're seeing just a massive behavioral shift now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my mom. She said, "No way I will ever do that online." And now we got her all set up, and she still can't believe, she can't believe that she's doing it
Yeah.
every week. But it's what we got to do right now. It's making things work for us. So, all right. Well, great article here, Greg. I know you've got that up, and much, much more, of course, can be found there on ZDNet. So we hope you will all check it out, and we appreciate you watching. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.